Welcome to the Thursday, January 11th meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. Tonight, we did not have anybody participating remotely, so I will not read the whole preamble about a hybrid meeting. If the public would like to participate in the public meeting, they can send emails prior to or during the meeting to cpcemails@northandoverma.gov. And we'll keep an eye on our inboxes, and if the question or comment comes up, we will try to address it, as in a timely fashion. Any questions? Okay. The first item on the agenda is a notice of intent for Applebrook Farm. So we're happy to hear. Why don't you you can come to either podium. They both work, and introduce yourself, give your address, and an explanation.
Good evening. My name is Albert Manzik. I live at 72 Foss Street, and I'm one of the owners of the property in question. I have, if it's okay, I have some exhibits to hand out.
Sure.
This is an aerial photo of the property. Gives a good indication of the layout.
Thank you. I think so.
Everybody have one? Sorry.
That's sorry. You can skip it. Yeah.
So in addition to the aerial photo, which to orient you to the property, the brook should be on the bottom or the south side, looking straight across the property, a little bit north towards Greenbelt property. Boundary line, existing condition survey plan. Boundary line survey will orient you to the photo. So what you're looking at is 9.75 acres of actively farmed hayfield. This is possibly one of the oldest actively farmed hayfields in town. It has been in current use since the 1800s. The Foster family owned it for close to 100 years before we bought it from them. It has, to the north, it has trail connectivity to Greenbelt, and to the east, to the Foster Farm fields, which are across the street. The parcel itself is 9 3/4 acres. It's, as you can see from the picture, it's mowed and accessible. There are access points on the east and on the west sides. The east is a easement that comes in from Foster Street over the land of 224 Foster. And on the west side, it comes in from Lancaster. The road that comes in from Lancaster is improved. We improved it within the past year and a half. We got a permit to fix that road, and we put in like 1 million yards of fill and soil, and we created a parking lot at the end of the road where the road comes onto the field. We did a curb cut there and created a parking lot for vehicles so that when you drive down, if you choose to drive in from Lancaster, you can park your vehicle, get out and walk around. As I said, it was previously run by Earl and Beatrice Foster. I don't know if any of you ever knew them, but they were very nice people. They lived across the street from me on Foster Street. Some of the assets of this property, aside from being an actively farmed parcel, aside from the fact that it's useful, there's a tremendous amount, very abundant in wildlife. White-tailed deer, coyote, beaver, fox, fisher cat, and every type of upland game live there. Birds of prey, that are recorded on the property include bald eagles, great blue heron, red-tailed hawk, Cooper's hawk, great horned owl, and screech owls, and I'm sure I missed some. Waterfowl includes a healthy population of wood ducks. We have 6 wood duck boxes on the property. Field nesting species include bobolinks, turkey, and mallard ducks. Mosquito Brook runs through the southern boundary and is one of the brooks that the Fish and Wildlife stock. That brook gets stocked twice a year by Fish and Wildlife. And there are 2 ancient ways that allow access, one from Lancaster Road and one from Town Farm. It makes it accessible, it makes it usable, and it's productive. So I'm at the stage in life where it's time for me to retire. And this parcel's been under 61A and it's been in my family for probably 45 years. And as I said, we acquired it from the Fosters. So in order to keep the primary farm, our total farm is 25 plus acres, plus or minus. And one of our goals is to keep the primary farm as is. And it appears that it might be necessary to sacrifice this portion of the farm to keep the main farm running. So because it's under 61A, because the town has a first right of refusal, it only made sense to see if the town wanted to get involved and get ahead of it. So that's what brings me here to you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure, no, thanks. We certainly appreciate you coming to us, and you know, I think there'll be some questions. I think usually it comes down to sort of how it's done, like who owns it and so forth. I guess like my first question would be, seeing to be talking about it as an open space, like wildlife conservation area.
Yes.
And is that the only way you would want it to be used, like instead of active site or something?
You know, my goal is not to build houses on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a very lively discussion amongst the family over the best use and what we should be doing, but I mean, the way it sits right now, the way it is, and it serves so many purposes. I like it the way it is, but I don't know what you're thinking. If you're thinking like soccer fields or something, you know, that still wouldn't be houses. So I guess, you know, it's a little oddly shaped, but
Yeah.
I guess you could do it if you had to. If you had the right guy on a bulldozer, I guess you could do anything. So.
Are there any other potential recreational benefits to the open space?
Well, the connectivity of the trails on the greenbelt side to the north is all greenbelt property. When you orient yourself to that aerial photo, that roadway that runs along greenbelt is almost a couple thousand feet long, and there are 2 currently existing greenbelt trails that terminate right at my property. So I get a lot of visitors sometimes, but there's a lot of hiking activity there, and it could still serve as a hayfield. It could still be cut. It doesn't have to. You don't have to stop cutting it and let it turn to wood. It could be kept open. There could be a perimeter trail installed along the edges, and it could still be farmed. It could still be you could still be used as a hayfield, and as open space, and as hiking area.
Would Greenbelt Road extension provide access to Mosquito Brook?
So it would. When you look at the map, and you look at the westerly edge of the property, you can't see it, but there is a greenbelt trail that comes out right near where I described as what's a parking area, and that terminus, that could be continued along the edge of the field, in the vicinity of the brook. It could travel over to the east side where there's a bridge, and there's another road that goes out to Foster Street, which connects to the Foster Farm Fields. So it's not a use, it's already, that part is already established, it's already usable and doable. And in the wintertime, a lot of my neighbors cross-country ski and snowshoe, and they take exactly that path. They come through Greenbelt, they do the horseshoe trail on Greenbelt, they come out onto our property, they go right across the property, they go to the bridge on the east side, cross the bridge, go over the brook, and they take that driveway all the way out to Foster Farm Fields, do the loop around there, and then come back. The folks that live on Lancaster Road are my biggest customers, and I know they enjoy it, so it's very, very usable that way. It's also, it's got tremendously good soils. It doesn't have any hydric soils in the area where you're looking at that's green. Those are all sandy, loomy sandy soils, so they're very, very good for drainage. And they're also, builders like those soils. Yeah, there's no hydric soils up on the field.
Have you had any discussions with Greenbelt at all?
Not within the past 3 years. We did talk to Greenbelt a couple of years ago. I've had conversation with Mr. Dick from the trustees of reservations, and trustees are interested in trying to put something together to co-sponsor. If trustees are interested, I contacted trustees, I contacted Trust for Public Lands, and we'll see how those go. If need be, it's not a reach to call Greenbelt, they're right there. The biggest improvement that we've made has been that roadway that you see coming in from Lancaster. That was an old cart path. That's an ancient way, and it qualifies as an ancient way because it predates the subdivision control law. And that's added value, because not only do you have good access, but it's usable, and it can be improved. The town has the fee under the road coming in from Lancaster. Should the town decide to take title, they already have the fee under the road on that top part of that parcel that says parcel I. There are underground utilities at the Lancaster stub, and high voltage electric on the east side by the bridge, coming in from the National Grid triffication station by the power lines. They have 3-phase, 4-wire over there. So that would be a likely route to take if need be. We entertain the idea of solar panels. We've talked to people about that. We've got basically everything on the table, but it just, like I said, because the town has first right on it under 61A, it just seemed like this would be the best place to start. And you know, I won't lie to you, I'd rather see it stay open, so.
What do you think the value of the property is now?
So, I got an opinion of value from a realtor. I know it's not what everybody's looking for, but took the wrong road here. This is an opinion of value from.
And if you have this electronically, we could send it to Zach, it'd be good, because it should be part of the record, and
What's that?
all the papers.
Everything? Okay.
Yeah, if you have like a copy that you can email to
I
Zach.
can.
Yeah,
I can
that
do
would
it.
be great.
Yep, I can do it.
We can
I
share.
wasn't sure what to actually expect, so I kind of,
Yeah.
I threw together a package, and I got it. Hold on.
What do you hear? Where's that parking lot?
So, be right here. Right here where you see the cuts.
Okay.
Yep. So you coming from here, the fork, you stay to the right, you can park right there,
Okay.
and then this road goes all the way over. We improved it, especially, well, this area didn't need the improvement that much, it was already pretty good, but from here, we had to do a lot of work. Anybody need a,
Yeah, please, thank you.
Hey, guys.
should have done a better job, Jerry.
Thank you.
Now, if there were any interest from representatives of the town, is this open space accessible, easily accessible by car or foot traffic?
Yeah, it's the roadway coming in, from Lancaster. So it would come into here. That's where I described as the parking area. Yeah,
Right here on the map.
right there, so you'd come in from Lancaster, you drive right down.
And that's current conditions?
Current right now, yeah,
Okay.
we did a lot of work on it. We had Tom Sawyer down there, and
Moving dirt.
he moved a lot of dirt. He got us, so you could drive a Mercedes down there if you had to.
But it sounds like, Al, you're not necessarily interested in selling it to the town if we had some intention of developing that land in some form or fashion, or would it depend on what it was?
Say it again?
It sounds like you wouldn't be interested necessarily in selling the town to the land to the town if we had any sort of intention of developing it. Is that kind of your position?
You know, I don't know. I guess I'd have to see what you'd be talking about. I don't know what the town would wanna do in terms of development.
Yeah. So I'm just, just thinking off the top of my head, we have a critical shortage of fields, for our kids in town.
The playing fields.
Right, playing fields.
I'm not saying I object to that.
Yeah. Okay.
My first choice would be open space, passive recreation, but if we were able to, agree, certainly, I wouldn't object. I have kids and grandkids,
A lot of kids in town could enjoy it if it
I
made
got 7
sense.
grandchildren, so I'm not a curmudgeon, I like kids.
Understand.
If it stopped snowing and raining, you could take a drive out down there,
Yep.
and you wouldn't get stuck.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it passable?
It's passable, I don't plow it,
Okay.
but it's passable.
Okay.
How long does it take me to get from the road to the property?
It's about 1,000 feet,
1,000 feet, okay.
yeah. Nice wooded trail. Like I said, it's actually an ancient way, so, of interest, it's known as Wildcat Road. For those of you that lived in town a long time, you may remember, prior to Lancaster Road being built, and prior to South Bradford Street being paved and extending up towards Bear Hill, this whole area was a labyrinth of cart paths that we used to call them paper roads. And, not Lancaster, but Purgatory Lane, Wildcat Road, Old South Bradford Street, they all used to come in from Salem Street. They'd crisscross, some would go down to Winter, some went up to Town Farm. And when a lot of the subdivisions got built, a lot of them got terminated. When Bear Hill got done, the trails, the roads that went to Smolak's Farm, you used to be able to drive from Hayfield to Smolak's Field in a truck. And when all the buildings started taking place in the 80s and 90s, the roads got converted to either driveways or nothing at all. So this was, when Lancaster Road got constructed, they had to give us that parcel I you see on the boundary line. Parcel I was awarded to us by the planning board because we were being landlocked out by the developer. So that's how that came to be. What's known as Hidden Circle now used to come all the way in from Salem, one straight run. It was a good spot for kids on dirt bikes and, you could go all over the place. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a spot, and, came in right by Charlie St. Cyr's barn, and, it was like a motocross out there.
Is this considered the appraisal you're gonna be going by?
No.
So, it's just an opinion of value. If we were, let's say we were gonna list it for sale. That's the kind of document we'd get, and we'd get comps on other sales. But, I think, I'm under the impression that, this board may want a full-blown appraisal. And, that's something that we'd have to, have to talk about. But that's been my understanding.
Right. We would have to have an appraisal, because that,
It's required, right?
Yeah, it's required.
So I expect that to probably be one of the steps. I expect numerous steps on this. But I was, mostly, I felt that, give you the information, whatever you need that I have right now, and then ask for what you don't have, and tell me what you need me to do.
yeah, I mean, I think, I know we've talked about like the green belt being like a natural partner, and I think this parcel had come to the committee before, and we talked about the green belt, maybe before my time, maybe John would remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably, I do remember it was has to do with the greenbelt, but I think the key thing here is that this will only work if you have a partner, because technically, we set up a rule, you can't ask for something for yourself. So you can't, like, propose it because it's your property, you need somebody to work with somebody to do that. I'm glad you did talk to
So I talked to trustees, but, I mean,
TPL.
when it comes to the partner, I mean, is that incumbent upon me, or does the board
No,
have a
well,
working relationship with?
The problem is, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have a rule that people cannot put forth an application where they're the prime and sole beneficiary. There has to be some intermediate partner in there. It could be the town, it could be Greenbelt, it could be somebody else. But I think it tends to work better that way. I mean, it's always worked better in the past that way. So, you want somebody to make, even if you work with somebody with the application that's not yourself, I think that facilitates a little bit better.
I'm not sure I'm following, so you just want me to have a third party?
Well, yeah, and ideally, a third party is a partner you're partnering with. I mean, if you look at every property that North Andover has bought over the last, since CPA began, we had a partner. So it was TPL, and then in a couple of cases it was Greenbelt, and I think maybe one case it was the trustees. But there was always a third party involved in that. Actually, in most of the cases, the third party actually purchased the property and then sold it to the town. It was a three-party transaction.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think that's the cleanest way to do it, because the town's not really expert at managing those sorts of things. I think it works better for you, because you're dealing with a third party that knows what they're doing, has done plenty of these things before. So,
Who becomes the custodian of the property?
whoever we choose, whoever we choose. I mean, the Conservation Commission actually has a day-to-day responsibility, but you have to appoint somebody who is
Right.
actually overlooks the conservation
And
restriction.
they'd have to be willing to do that.
Yeah, and it's a nominal amount of money you give them, and then I think most of ours is trustees, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then in some cases, the town has the concept, like, I was trying to go through and think of all the projects we've done. Like last year, when that lot came up by Carter Field, the town bought it, right? Like that was,
Well, that was different, and right now it's still open, so we haven't closed on it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but that's about the only one I can think of where there was no intermediary involved. I mean, if you think about it, it's the Glenwood lot was Greenbelt,
Mhm.
The Leonard Farm was Greenbelt. Yeah, mostly, Carter Hill was TPL, both Half Mile Hill 1 and 2 were TPL as well, so.
Especially the larger parcels, we'll end up, open space parcels will have a conservation restriction. And the restriction, well, the property's owned by the town, under the care and custody of Conservation Commission, but then there's a third party, oftentimes Trust for Public Land or Greenbelt or Trustees of Reservations, will administer that conservation restriction. And between the two, the town is supposed to oversee it to make sure that the interests of the conservation restriction are upheld. Usually it's to retain the current and natural state of the parcel. And they work with who administers the conservation restriction to make that happen. And that's been replicated how many times? Dozen
Dozens,
times
right,
in
right.
this town.
Well, there are some examples that the town runs the properties. And like the Mazarenko property is one example, the Foster Farm is another. There are some examples where there's no third party, but if this board wants a third party, I'll seek one out.
I mean, you're right, I think that Mazarenko we bought that before CPI.
That was bought in 1990.
Oh, I remember that very well.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that. That was, because it was a 61A property.
It was a 61A, and Fish and Wildlife stepped up on that one.
Right, well, yeah, it got funded through the water bill, actually, I think in the end, that's how we paid for it, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, I understand what you're asking for, and I'll
Yeah, I mean, we can do it either way, but I think it's a little bit cleaner, but, if you don't wanna go down the path, that's fine, I mean, but I think it works having somebody else involved, helping you with it and helping us with it as an intermediary.
If it'll make it easier for both sides, we'll pursue it.
I mean, if I'm sorry, Jack, if you're not getting like a response from the trustees, I mean.
So
know-
I just put a call, I spoke to Jeremy Dick yesterday,
Yeah.
and he was gonna get with his guys and get back to me, so he hasn't had enough time to get back, it's only been 24 hours
Okay.
since I spoke to Jeremy. Trust for Public Lands, it's been almost 2 weeks, they don't answer their emails.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference with them is they've gotten out of that business because they, on Al Cullen's property, they took a beating on the house, so they got out of the land business, is really what I think happened. So, but it's really, either the trustees or Greenbelt or the two, but if you don't have any luck with trustees, let us know. 'Cause,
Right.
we know people there.
Well, you have contacts, so what I'll do is I'll give trustees a few days to get back to me. And if they are either unwilling or unable to do it, then I'll reach out to this board to get the recommendation of the next best,
Right.
and we'll just go that way.
But,
So that's something that we can work on, and be a good assignment. Are there any other areas where you'd like something clarified, or?
Well, how long would it take to do an appraisal on a piece of property like this, and who would do the appraisal?
we would pick, we'd probably use the same guy we generally used. in
So
the
you
past.
used, last time I was in front of you, you used Landvest.
That's who we traditionally.
That's who you
the
used.
most, Yeah,
It doesn't matter to me who it is, I don't care.
yeah,
I'm not in the business, so.
Right.
yeah. So, yeah. But,
No,
again,
that would be, I'm gonna ask the hard question, who's paying for the appraisal?
well, if it's our appraisal, I mean, I don't wanna negotiate that here, but that's the advantage of bringing a third party in, actually, that goes away as an issue, the third party.
So the
picks
third
it up.
party could do the appraisal?
Yeah, on our behalf. It
Okay.
has to be somebody that.
No, you understand why I'm asking?
Yeah,
'cause
no,
I mean,
no, I mean.
That's a big dime,
Yeah, no, it is, it's not an insignificant amount of money, yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah. But, I wanna thank you for your patience and diligence, because I know you've been working on this for a long time, and, have a real interest.
Well, I
in-
took a lot of notes last time we talked, and,
Yeah.
one of the things that was made pretty clear was the access had to be better.
Yeah,
So we worked on the access, that was a big deal. And, you know, so I'm very willing to work on any aspects you want. Third party, something we'll pursue. Should I mean, contact the chair if,
Yeah,
can I email you if I have
sure.
questions or?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll keep talking, you know, I'm gonna talk to town council and, town administrator and see what we can do and how they can help facilitate the process as well. We're trying to get applications in, you know, for February 1st.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, you know, we can try to get something, you know.
When do
maybe
you meet next?
We meet the second weekend second Thursday of every month.
Second Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let me try to get something for the second Thursday if I can just get it to you. And just to try to keep working. I'll,
Al, do you know, is there any, on this open spaces, are there any areas of priority habitat?
so thank you for asking that question. I got that answer today. So this information was garnered today. According to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, the property does not contain any certified vernal pools or estimated or priority habitats or rare species or rare wildlife. The property is not within an area of critical environmental concern. The property is not within an outstanding resource of water. It's not within the Lake Kachikwick Watershed District. The upland soils on the property are 254 Bravo, which is Merrimack Fine Sandy Loam, which is somewhat excessively drained, and 253 Bravo, which is Hinckley Loamy Sand. According to the NRCS soil, there is a zone, AE, and the 100-year FEMA floodplain associated with Mosquito Brook is at elevation 128. That is below the portions of my field. So we have good altitude, and we have good soils, and there are no hydric soils on the property, and no vernal pools, which is huge. So that basically means the use that I'm using it for is, right now, it works, and we wouldn't be damaging anything if we built trails or put Fenway Park out there, or whatever you want to do.
Great. Are there any other questions from the committee?
What's the width of the road, Al, coming in off Lancaster? Is that like 30 feet wide?
It's 30 feet, it's bounded on each side, stone walls, so it's 30 feet plus or minus based on the stones. It's an ancient way, a legitimate ancient way, so it's 30, 28, 32, 30, and, but it's, you know, we get the tractor and the hay wagons down it, so.
Now you can get a Mercedes-Benz down it.
Okay,
We good?
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, John, so, yeah, the partner part.
I mean,
Does it have to be?
It's arguable about whether you have to, because I mean, practically speaking, I think it would be a little bit easier, but it's your decision to make.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would kill the thing, but.
Sorry, John.
My son, this is my son.
If I may. Mr. Chairman, Albert Manzi III, I'm the attorney for my dad and the farm. I think we're just looking for a little clarification, or I'm looking for a little bit of clarification what the board's expectation is with respect to a partnership. Is that a guideline with respect to this committee? Is it a rule? I think we just need some clarification in terms of how that works.
When we've had others come, we've told them that they had to have that. So I would be comfortable with you doing the same, you know.
And is there a recommendation as to the procedure or how that works, different types of partners? What is the requirements of the partner themselves?
Well, it's that they would, you know, hold the conservation restriction and be involved and, you know, and facilitate the transaction, you know.
Okay, so you're looking for a third party to hold the restriction?
Yeah,
Well,
it could be the
You
town,
don't necessarily
yeah.
have the person that you partner with hold the restriction, it's that they do the transaction.
Do the transaction, yeah.
Really, it's it's that expertise, that real estate expertise.
And this is,
I mean,
this is a rule, this is the rule of this board or committee?
It's I think it's been the informal practice, it's not written in like rules, regulations, or anything like that, and as said, we have done at least one of them that has been different than that, so it's, I think in the end, even though it's my preference that you partner with somebody, I don't think you're under an obligation to, even though I may alluded to imply differently.
We're just looking for clarification, so when we're going back in terms of fully understanding the expectation of this process in your board. So, thank you.
I get it. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We don't have a lot. You know, we continued, we closed down a number of projects in the last meeting, 9 projects. Thank you. And, you know, that sort of helps. We've closed out a lot. As you look at the project balances, you can see we've closed out a lot of the older projects, and the projects we have open are mostly still in process, or, so I think that's all good. I would recommend that we look, as I think about the next meeting, we'll have applications in hand, and I think it'd be a good, I'll spend some time putting things together, and let's just kind of take a look at our total financial position, because I think that'd be a good thing to do before we start, looking at any particular project proposals, to figure out like where our standing is, what we have, and what would make sense to sort of keep in reserve. So I think, we'll try to tie that together in a neat little simple chart that we can display as well, because I think, it's not great to display a spreadsheet in a public meeting on TV because no one could see it. So I'll take it on myself to do that for next meeting. We should have applications by then. Like if the public is watching, the February 1st we've got our deadline for submissions. And what I've been telling all proposed applicants is that it would be best to put in an application of some sort. We can refine it. If the numbers need to be fixed, we could delay our decision, but at least we can set up the next few months when we're considering these projects in February and March and figure out, how many we can handle each meeting and schedule with people. We usually end up, I would say, the years I've been on the committee, we've always ended up adding an extra meeting at some point. So we're meeting more than once a month to try to get through these so that we can, go to the selectmen in April and FinCom and everybody. So we're trying to get this all done in March. So we'll start that, and I know it's an early deadline in February 1st, but I think at least if we have the outline of the project, we can start talking to people. If some numbers come in later, at least we're 80% of the way through deliberations, and then the numbers can inform our vote. So that's what I've told all the applicants. So. And we should, I did hear from the Housing Authority, they did not submit a notice of intent, but they said they'd have some projects. We have a few projects that have come in from the town already that we haven't heard from, but we'll get those in, and, that we can probably schedule them for the next meeting, because those applications are all done and in, so I'll have the town come.
The boat ramp project, are they ready for the next step?
That's a good question. I don't think I saw that one come in.
Stevens Estate
Stevens
Building,
Estate,
that should be ready for the next step.
Yeah.
The most recent phase, was closed out, so it should be
Yeah.
for the next, yeah.
Who was putting that forward in the past? Was it Gene, or is that coming from the town manager?
Say that again?
Who was putting that forward in the past, Gene or the town manager?
The closing out.
Oh, okay.
I remember reading it.
Yeah, and I guess our deadline is the February 2nd, so the Friday, we pushed it to the Friday, so, and to close the business on Friday. Yeah, we've got the carriage house and the town common. The bandstand.
Yep.
So, those are in already.
And the church is still working on their,
Can I make an observation, and if I'm out of line, if I'm premature on it? Is any church project, I think we have to tread extraordinarily carefully, because of, first of all, the law, but secondly, the way we've treated church projects in the past where we've turned them down. And I think the thing we absolutely don't want to be in situation is where we propose funding the church in the old center, but we turned down the Episcopal Church a couple of years ago, and if the projects are fundamentally the same, we don't want to be caught in that position because it looks like we're playing favorites, and that's the very thing that will get people aggravated. So I just want to make sure we're really careful there.
Yeah, no, I think, the approach we're taking is to say, come back with a legal response, and it may take us, it may be that we just look at the legal response for a year. Maybe it's Christine and studies this for a year and figures it out, and then maybe we come up with a policy so that everybody who came before us could be on the same footing instead of, that the precedent would be,
That's a very good
would be
idea.
set,
Maybe you give it another year runway so you can treat everybody the same.
And then the last item, actually, while we're talking about the agenda, I think, maybe because we have Zach here and everything. So next time, we're going to look at our financial position. We'll start to consider some applications that have already been received. I think we should just get right to the towns, especially, because they're pretty predictable. And maybe we can, sort of get them through quickly, since we already have them. Anything else we should be talking about at next meeting before we get, besides those two things? No?
Well, yeah, the third thing I can think of is if we should review if there are any projects that require historical commission to approve them, so that we can get that into the agenda for the
Oh, good.
historical commission.
Right, okay. So yeah, the third thing would be anything that's got to be referred to another committee, so.
Because I see on here, we still have the Schofield Mill, and I think they're trying to make a decision on whether they want to keep that or do anything to it, and I think you guys should be weighing in on that.
Last I heard about that is that there were some negotiations going on for possibly the Historical Society buying that building. And I haven't heard anything since then, but I can
Schofield
see where
Mill?
that's gone.
Spent like $150,000 on that thing.
I know.
Where'd that money go?
Well, they did it, and then what happens, they found an invasive termite of some sort underneath, and they ate out all the main boards. I don't know the name of it, it's a name for what it is, it came up out of the river, and it's in there. But that's,
So from Historical Commission, I could be fairly, I think I could take the liberty to predict that the commission would vote that that's one of the most historical buildings in the town.
I would agree.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I hate to see it just keep sitting there. We have the money in here to do some work, but I was told that that money would not be enough
Right.
significant to finish, to do the
Yeah,
job.
okay.
But maybe somebody could give us an idea of where we are with that and what would
I'll
take.
I'll see what I can find out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Zach, if you could put that on the agenda as well, Schofield Mill update, and we'll, I have to talk to I have to talk to the town manager anyway, so I'll ask if they could provide an update on where we are with that. Okay, the last item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of December 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion relative to,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Any further motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you.